Hey everybody, I'm back with another review, this time about the Season 3 premiere of The Flash. If you're a fan of The Flash, I'm sure you've seen a lot of stuff happening over the last few months leading up to the premiere episode this season. I can't see without my glasses. So the season premiere starts and Barry Allen is in an alternate timeline, one he's created by the events of the season finale from last year.
What should we call this brave new world that you've whipped up for us? I was thinking Flashpoint.
So the general plot of the episode follows the Flashpoint comic book story arc from 2011, which after the events it drastically changed the DC universe, creating the New 52, an alternate universe, I guess you could say, that has cut out a lot of the history of DC Comics. But this episode is a lot more scaled down, it's more condensed and more personal, just focusing on Barry and Central City. There's nothing outside of Central City that is revealed to us to be any different. So basically what led up to this is, last season, Zoom killed Barry's father, and out of remorse, he decided that he felt that too much bad had happened in his life. The Reverse Flash killed his mother, and then Zoom killed his father, so he decided to travel back in time and stop the Reverse Flash from killing his mother, thus creating an alternate timeline, which is Flashpoint. So this season we see the alternate Flashpoint universe, in which case Wally is the Flash, or Kid Flash as he is known. We see the rival, who is Jay Garrick's speedster nemesis from the comics, I guess. We see that Cisco is a billionaire and also a jerk. Caitlin is no longer a scientist, but a pediatric eye doctor. I don't know what it's called. Octo, something or other. Joe is a drunk. Iris is Iris. She didn't really change, really. She's still a news reporter. She's still on the A-game, whatever. Oddly enough, there is no mention of Harrison Wells, who created the particle accelerator. I'm going to assume that this timeline is different and it wasn't Eobard Thawne as Dr. Wells that made it, but the actual Earth 1 Harrison Wells, which is weird because in the original timeline he wouldn't create it until 2020 and it is currently 2016. So I don't know what's going on with that. I'm just going to kind of nod and smile. Yeah, just ignore those time inconsistencies with TV shows. Yeah. One other thing I did notice about this episode, now I know a lot of review places aren't really talking about this, but a lot of the fans are. It's that they've got Alex Dessert, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Anyway, he has returned to play Julio Mendez from the original 1990s Flash TV show. Again, he's playing that same character in this one, only this time in the Flashpoint universe, he's the captain of the police force instead of just a forensic scientist. So it's nice to see that they finally got the other main cast member from the original Flash show on the new Flash show. Yeah, it was a really nice Easter egg to see. But we see this alternate world that's totally different, and the entire time the Reverse Flash is there taunting Barry, saying,
Well, one day soon, Barry, you'll be begging me to kill her again.
The episode follows a lot of the themes that Flashpoint introduced us, such as the consequences of what time travel can possibly do, the consequences that happen when you choose to make your own personal life better over other people's lives better. Like the whole point of Flashpoint, aside from it being a story about Barry getting to have a life with his mother that he never had, but the whole point of Flashpoint is to realize your happiness is not something that should come before the greater good of the world. And we see that in this episode where Barry starts losing his memories of the original timeline, which also happened in the Flashpoint. And he decides it's better for him to reset the timeline to the way it was. Like, his happiness is not worth the unhappiness of all those around him. So anyway, Barry decides that in order to fix everything, he needs to go back in time. He needs to let the Reverse Flash kill his mother again. And of course he does that, thinking that it'll reset the timeline to the way it originally was. Of course, there's a lot of layers of time travel happening here. There's the original time, going back in time with Barry and the Reverse Flash fighting, and Reverse Flash kills Barry's mom, which actually still has not yet happened in the show. It's still further ahead in the future. There's also the second layer of time travel from season 1 where Barry goes back in time and he sees his future self warn him not to get involved, to allow his mother to be killed by the Reverse Flash. There's also the third layer of time travel where Barry went back in time and stopped him from killing his mother. And now there's a fourth layer of time travel where the Reverse Flash goes back in time, stops Barry from stopping the Reverse Flash. It's so complicated, but there's layers. So, of course, we get back to the present day. Barry goes into Joe's house. He talks to Joe and Wally, and he finds out that Iris is no longer on good terms with Joe. So we know there have been significant changes to the timeline. I think Iris is just the tip of the iceberg, or so to speak. I think that we will find more inconsistencies with the timeline. Based on previews I've seen for the next couple episodes, it looks like there's a thing with Cisco that seems to be out of shape, and Dr. Wells from Earth 2 seems to be a little different. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. So we need to keep in mind that while this ended this way and everything's changed, it's probably going to have an impact on the Arrowverse, which I think it will take the entirety of the season for Barry to be able to fix and put everything back. Either that, or it will build up to the big crossover event, and that is where the timeline will be put right again. So, and it's not just Barry who knows about the differences in the timeline this time, right? Like previously in the comic book, in Flashpoint, Barry was the only one who realized that there was a change when he returned to the actual timeline, which actually was the New 52 timeline, because the Reverse Flash, who was the only other person who knew, was killed and wiped from existence. So in this case, it's not just Barry who remembers and who needs to try and set things right. The Reverse Flash is still alive, and he knows the changes to the timeline. Plus, he's going to be a series regular on Legends of Tomorrow, and as we know, Legends of Tomorrow is about a group of heroes traveling through time to fix the time stream. Furthermore, Cisco has that whole vibing thing. So previously he was able to remember the alternate timeline where Eobard Thawne killed Cisco when he was Wells, and then he gets the vibes of Earth 2. So I'm assuming he's going to get the vibes of the original timeline and possibly the Flashpoint timeline, as well as this current timeline. So Cisco and Barry and the Reverse Flash, three people who know about the changes. Well, Cisco potentially will know. And the Legends of Tomorrow also have the ability to know, since they deal with changes in the timeline. But I feel like that the Flash, or anything connected with the Speed Force, is kind of outside that realm of the Time Masters and what Legends of Tomorrow does. They're kind of like centered on this time travel thing, but the Speed Force kind of envelops everything and controls their control, if that makes any sense. I feel like it's like an extra dimensional entity kind of thing that has a higher control range than the Legends possibly could. So aside from that big twist ending of Iris and Joe not talking, we also see the whatever his name is that was the rival in the Flashpoint timeline. He is woken up by this voice in the current timeline, and he has no powers in this as far as we know. And he's being told to wake up, and the word alchemy is being carved into the mirror, which is an obvious reference to Dr. Alchemy. So I'm curious, is Dr. Alchemy waking up the rival's powers to turn him into the rival for the season, or is he turning him into Dr. Alchemy? Not sure. Also, what's the deal with Malfoy? He's a brand new character, originally named Julian Dorn, but now Julian Albert. A lot of people think he is Dr. Alchemy because Dr. Alchemy's name was Albert Desmond. So that's going to unfold throughout the season as well. So I have a feeling that Dr. Alchemy and the rival will both play key parts in fixing the timeline from the Flashpoint timeline to put it back into the original timeline. Also, one other thing to note is the original Flashpoint created the New 52, and afterwards Barry was the only one who remembered the Flashpoint timeline in the original timeline, but his memories faded after time. And the New 52 just became the new reality until they decided to do DC Rebirth, in which case Wally West came back, the original Wally West, and he came out of the Speed Force remembering the original timeline and what happened after the Flashpoint to create this new world. And now Wally is here to sort of usher in a new era, I guess you could say. He knows there's an external enemy threat that caused this to happen. He doesn't know what it is. We all know it's Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen. So he's trying to find that out, and it's going to accumulate to Dr. Manhattan versus the Justice League or something like that. I know it's going to happen. Crisis on Watchmen Earth. Crisis on Infinite Watchmen? Crisis something something Watchmen Dark Side. Something something complete. I want to see if in the TV version of this, if it's going to be Wally West who sets everything right again. I was really excited to see Wally as Kid Flash because obviously Wally is my favorite superhero. Actually, that's not obvious. I don't think I've ever said that. Anyway, Wally is the best Flash. Period. And it's nice to see Wally running around as a speedster, so I'm going to wonder if Wally in this, like the current timeline, Wally already has powers, or if he will be gaining powers, and if at some point he will end up joining the Speed Force where he discovers everything and tries to set things right. Or maybe the Flashpoint version of Wally comes to try and do that. Either way, I really, really hope we get to see more Speedster Wally in action. But I highly doubt they're going to put that much on Wally. It's probably going to be more of a Barry versus Thawne thing that will play out through this story arc. Also, while I'm on the topic of Wally, I really hope we get to see Wally and Linda together in this season. Although, when they first decided to bring in Wally, he was being based off the New 52 version, but then DC decided to bring back the original Wally. So now we have original Wally West and New 52 Wally West existing in the comics. So is this Wally in the TV version based off the original or the new? Or is it like an amalgamation of both? Because the new one obviously wouldn't be together with Linda, but the old one would. So would this Wally be with Linda? I'm hoping we get to see Linda come back and Wally and Linda together. Although season 2 kind of hinted that Wally and Jesse were going to get together, which I don't like that. But at the same time, I also didn't like Wally and Artemis getting together in Young Justice, but I grew to love the Wally-Artemis pairing. And I'm not going to use the combined names like so many people on the internet do because I like to use proper grammar. And combining two names together does not sound good. It sounds dumb. You're dumb. I do know that this season we are finally getting Mirror Master, as well as Magenta, Savitar, and a female version of the Top. So it'll be interesting to see these new rogues being added in to the current rogues, as well as seeing if they will stay around after the timeline has been fixed, because there are things that could possibly be different based on the timelines, like certain characters may no longer exist or be villains or heroes. But anyway, so the premiere episode of season 3 was amazing. So I'm really excited for season 3. You guys should be too. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and hopefully I will make more videos if anything else interesting happens this season. And I am out of practice doing videos. So later days.